Hello, I'm Bill Fox, and this program is about East Brunswick. Tonight, we're going to be talking about traffic, a topic I'm sure is of great interest to everybody, and one which I hope after this program you'll see that there are some efforts to deal with. I don't know about you, but I get frustrated quite frequently about traffic, and I know a lot of people wonder where it comes from. The motto of the township has, or the seal of the township has in it the phrase, heart of Middlesex County. And in fact, we are in almost the geographic center of Middlesex County, and we are the crossroads of the county. And much of the traffic that we're experiencing comes from those people who need to get from one place to another through East Brunswick. That doesn't make the traffic any lighter, and doesn't make your drive any easier. So we have to deal with traffic improvements wherever we can. And tonight, Bill Tanner, who is Director of Planning and Community Development, is going to spend a little while talking about traffic. And our studio audience tonight is Mr. Arthur Steinberg, who graciously volunteered to come in this evening. We had some other folks who had indicated they would be coming in, but they were unavoidably detained and will not be here. So we're going to look for some really good questions on behalf of everybody from you, Arthur. Bill, I think at this point it might be well to review those areas where we think that traffic improvements are needed, and then zero in on some of the things that are going to happen in 1986. And then I know that there are 3 projects that you want to talk about in more detail.
Okay, what we have with us at the meeting we had talked previously about how development was progressing in town. And one of the charts we had was the same one that we have here tonight, which is a map of where we want to do our traffic improvements and how we see our traffic improvements occurring over the next several years. In general, for orientation purposes, New Jersey Turnpike, which I'm sure everybody's aware of, Route 18, which runs down this side of the drawing, and Cranberry Road up through the heart of the town. The colors indicate orange are intersection improvements we will be doing. Purple is our roadways under our control that we will be doing something on, or roadways that will get some form of widening. The green are county roadways that are specifically going to have major improvements performed on them, and the remainder of the roadways are shown in a white color. What I'd like to concentrate on is what we're going to try to do this year, 1986, and those projects in particular. For the municipality, the major piece is Riders Lane, which cuts through the center of our town. Fern Road, which is down in the southern portion of the town and makes up one of the major east-west movements across town. The people that travel east to west know very well the intersection of Cranberry Fern Road and the problems we have at this location, both from a sight distance problem as well as how long you have to wait to get a break in the traffic. Traveling down Fern Road, another project is right at the end, Old Stage and Fern Road, which has been a potential problem for many, many years, and again, is a sight distance problem. People who have held their breath and pulled out coming towards the Spotswood area know that there is a vision or sight problem to the right as you look down Old Stage Road. Old Stage Road itself, as a matter of fact, is scheduled for some more work, repair in the form of some widening and resurfacing, as we had already accomplished from basically Brunswick Avenue to Old Stage, Summerhill Road, excuse me. The other projects, again, another one of our major east-west movements, Hardenberg Lane. This particular area here by the golf course, one of the really bad curves in the township, and one that we'll go into more detail later on. That, in addition to the Fern Road one, are probably two of the worst curves on major roadways that we have here in town. The other projects that we will be looking at, besides Riders Lane, Cranberry Road. The county has agreed and the township has agreed to widen Cranberry Road from the existing widening, which runs from the intersection with Summerhill Road and Dunham's Corner Road presently, will now proceed in a southerly direction, and right now currently will end at the existing intersection of Riders, Ruse, Cranberry Road. However, we're already in discussions with the county about an extension down to Fern Road, the intersection here, to coordinate with our improvements that we are contemplating this year. Renee Road, which is up here at the top of the map, is a roadway that we see as one of the key areas in trying to relieve the problems that we have on Route 18. Currently, what we have already scheduled for late '86, early '87 is a intersection improvement at the intersection of Tisus and Renee Road itself. And before the end of spring, we should see the elimination of the S-curve on Renee Road itself. That will be done as part of the development of a site called United Condos, which is indicated by the heavy dark line. One of their site plan conditions was the elimination of the S-turn. Also at the top of the map here, Riders Lane, there are substantial improvements to be made to Riders Lane, running from the replacement of the bridge over the Weston's Mill, which if anybody travels Riders Lane knows the little iron deck bridge is going to be replaced by a more engineered, better bridge to facilitate a transition from the 4 lanes up here. There'll be a 4-lane bridge, 4 lanes coming down, 2 lanes in each direction from the North Brunswick area to Tisus Lane, where a major intersection improvement will be made, and then the 4-lane section will drop off to a 1 lane in each direction or a 2-lane section, traveling down through to the vicinity of Milltown Road. The intersection of Tisus will be upgraded, as I said, as well as the intersection of Sullivan Way, which will get a traffic light, and not forgetting the people on the very edge of town, there will be a service road, at least for the people north of Sullivan Way, and we're exploring currently with the county the possibility of some kind of relief to the people between Tisus and Sullivan Way, as far as the 4-lane road section, which will have a median divider on it and will preclude people from backing out of their driveways out into the southbound direction. It's both for their safety as well as the safety of the people on the roadway. We don't want people on a 4-lane section being able to cross from a driveway. So for that reason, the median will be installed in this area. There will be no median once we get below Tisus Lane. And I believe the only other areas of substantial importance is Brunswick Avenue on this end of the map, where we will be doing a minor widening. Brunswick Avenue currently runs anywhere from 19 to 25 feet. What we are going to do is make a consistent 25-foot cross-section all the way down, resurface the roadway, take some of the kinks out. There's a curve around the vicinity of the exit for Society Hill East 2, and that curve will be eliminated as part of, not eliminated, but softened, I should say, as part of this improvement. And I should point out that this improvement was funded in to a good degree by the developers of the 2 sites, Society 1 and Society Hill 2. They contributed funds to do this work, as well as did some of the initial surveying for it. So that pretty much brings us to where I believe we're going to be in '86.
Bill, how about Route 18?
Route 18, probably the major thing that's going to happen on Route 18, and as of Thursday this week, which will be January 9th, we will be attending the township, the job meeting, the pre-construction job meeting for the construction of the long-awaited Lawrence Brook Bridge. State of New Jersey, as part of an overall project to upgrade this area of Route 18, will be constructing a parallel 4-lane bridge on the Route 18 over the Lawrence Brook, which will also include improvements all the way back to Route 1 and forward towards Narracon Place. Those improvements are additional lanes, better pavement, and after this is done, this bridge, which will be able to handle 2 lanes in each direction, The state will then come in and take the existing bridge and redeck this bridge and convert the system. Then will be 3 lanes in each direction with the new bridge and the old bridge as a reconditioned bridge, similar to what was done on Route 1 over the Raritan River, so that the amount of problem that this will cause to the traveling public, since it will be what we would say is off-system, it's not going to be in the roadway itself, but actually off the roadway, there won't be as much conflict with the traffic as would be, say, their original plan, which was just to refurbish the deck of Route 18. It would have been a disaster for East Brunswick, considering the traffic on 18 right now. So we're getting a new bridge, we're getting the old bridge redecked, and as a result of just that improvement, a lot of the bottleneck that we have currently in this area should be alleviated.
Bill, I know that last spring, as part of the study of the Riders Lane configuration, you did some investigation of the history of roadways in East Brunswick, and I think the folks who are watching might find that interesting, as many of us did. It
was interesting from our standpoint. As you look at East Brunswick, a developed community, there are several roads which we call or refer to as arterial roadways. Milltown Road, Riders Lane, which comes across this way, Cranberry Road, Dunham's Corner Road, Hardenberg Lane out this direction, and the 2 roadways, Riva Avenue and Fresh Ponds. With the exception of Fern Road, the existing arterial system of East Brunswick existed in 1865. So somewhere around the Civil War, all of our roadway systems, other than our development systems, interior roadways, was in place. We're working with a roadway system that was conceived for basically the horse and buggy. And we are so far beyond that, that's one of the reasons and one of the driving forces for eliminating curves such as on Fern Road and on Hardenberg Lane. But it surprises to find us that all of this infrastructure existed in 1865.
Okay. Now I know that you also made some videotape this week.
Oh, yes.
And maybe we ought to go to the videotape, as they say, as the introduction to the detail on the projects that are going to happen in '86.
Right. First roadway we took a look at was Fern Road, and as you just saw the curve sign go by, coming towards the curve now, what the problem we have here is how sharp the curve is, as people who travel this route know. And as you can take a look at cars driving by here, you'll see several of them cross over the center line, which obviously is not a very desirable condition. That fellow didn't. There he did. So that you've got a blind curve and then people crossing over towards you. On this one, we're approaching the intersection of Cranberry and Fern Road. Actually, we're on Fern Road, approaching Cranberry Road. And you can notice the rise in the pavement there. The problem here is that as you look to your left, as demonstrated by this car, vehicles disappear in a small valley, as it were. As cars are approaching the intersection, you lose sight of the car, and then all of a sudden it's on you. There's a vehicle coming up right now, which is difficult to see. The only thing you saw was the truck. Again, the other thing is, notice how far people pull out into the intersection. The camera is more on the shoulder of the roadway than the person in that vehicle. And I'm wondering how they saw whether or not there was anybody coming. The sight distance to the opposite side is relatively good. Here's the other curve that we were talking about earlier. This is Hardenberg Lane. Police car coming around the turn. And we enter this turn, and you'll notice there's a telephone pole directly in front. Notice the water on the side of the road. As we're proceeding up the roadway, there's not an adequate drainage system on this roadway, and it's one of the things we'll be taking care of. It was not all that cold on the day we were out, but notice the ice right there as we pass it, the buildup on that portion of the road. And the roadway itself is breaking up because of the water, because of the ice, and the problems we have. And this is Riders Lane. It's not surfaced yet, but it's the beginning of our relocated riders lane to the center of town. This is the portion closest to Summerhill Road, and we're actually proceeding towards the center of town. This is the other end of the project, coming out into the existing Carriage Square. The Carriage Square project, which exists currently, and you can see Riders Lane already in place and surfaced. We've traveled through Riders Lane and came out to Cranberry Road. At Cranberry Road, I'd like you to notice that across the way, it's already crossed Cranberry Road and the beginnings of Riders Lane on the opposite side. We expect that this will undoubtedly be paved this spring. Now that we've actually seen how the roadway looks when you drive through it, we thought we'd show you what it looks like in a plan view. Plan to orient you. Cranberry Road, the municipal center would be up here. This is traveling towards South River, towards Cranberry in that direction, hence the name Cranberry Road, and Fern Road, which is in the dark gray here. What we would try to do, what we will be doing actually, this is the bend that we had run through with the videotape. And the intention is to soften the curve, to bring the curve through so that you're not coming to a right angle turn as it currently exists. So this light gray area, tan area here, is that softened curve. The other part that's difficult for someone to pick up in a video is the fact that Fern Road is an S road, an S curve. It breaks hard to the right and then comes back again into the intersection. So as part of the improvement, not only would we eliminate this curve here, we'd also soften up the curve closer to the intersection itself. Then bring it back in on the intersection. And at the intersection, there are several options we can take. First of all, the county will be participating with us on a widening on Cranberry Road itself. The second, there are already appropriated by the state of New Jersey $150,000 to offset the cost of the township doing this work as part of the aid to local governments under the Governor's Trust Fund. And finally, there already is set aside money by the Township of East Brunswick to do the work that we're outlining here. The intersection itself, depending upon what the decision is on the width of Cranberry Road, will improve the sight distance in both directions. It will help the intersection itself line up better. As it stands right now, you can see that the leg to the, which is actually the east here, this leg here, is not quite straight with this one. It makes it difficult for someone coming across the intersection. You're already into a turn. So this whole movement here would be cleaned up. We also anticipate that we're going to signalize the intersection, either during this period. I've had discussions with the Department of Transportation on these types of projects, and they are more amenable to signalizing a project that they're funding. And they've said that we should explore the option with the Traffic Bureau in Trenton, but the local aid people feel that it's a strong case. But we might be signalizing this as well as widening it. Right now, all we're planning on is
Signalizing means there'd be a traffic light there?
traffic signals, yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've slipped into engineering again. We'd be putting traffic signals in which case there would undoubtedly be turn lanes on Cranberry Road, and depending upon the volume of traffic on Fern Road that we can anticipate, we probably will end up with turn lanes on Fern Road. So that the overall improvement will, first of all, make this curve here much softer. It will increase the safety of the project dramatically, and also take care of the sight problems here, as well as with the installation of a signal, which we feel we're very close to getting, will take care of the problem of people forcing their way out into the intersection because they've waited too long. So that really is our improvement at this end. I might also add that the Arlen's Brook, which runs to the top of this drawing here, we already are in an agreement with the county to replace the bridge here, and the widening will come all the way back to the vicinity of Candle Lane. So that project, the Fern Road project, will take place starting sometime spring 1986, this year. The second project that we drove through, the second area, was Hardenberg Lane. Hardenberg Lane has a similar curve in it, Also has a very slight, but it's there, an S-curve, where the roadway is coming, first going through a right-hand turn and then coming back to the left. And we have a bridge to deal with over the turnpike. Generally, what we will be doing, again, is starting on a straight section of the road, softening the curve through this section here, and finally coming back into a straight section of roadway, taking care of the sharp turn here and eliminating the soft curve in this area totally. As part of this, again, we have a bridge improvement that we will be working with the county on as far as getting funding in that area. This driveway here is the Tamarack Golf Course, in case the view on the tape wasn't clear. Tamarack Golf Course is in this area right here, and the bad curve is actually to the municipal side, or the center of town side of the Tamarack Golf Course. The county responsibility for the culverts come from the fact that they own basically all the culverts in the town. The county has maintenance responsibility for those items.
Bill, before you leave this, I know a lot of people are concerned about Hardenberg between Fresh Ponds and Riva Avenue. What are the prospects for that?
1987. We have in our capital improvements program already indicated that the next phase, we had originally had two phases to that project. It was a phase first for Fresh Ponds Road and then for Riva Avenue. Mm-hmm. What we have done is we've condensed both into one phase to treat Hardenberg Lane, the remainder of it, as one problem. Those will be coming to the council in 1987 for funding. Once we get this done in the winter, I would suspect in the winter we'll begin our work on the engineering for that end so that we'll have some good hard numbers for the council for next budget. But that I would expect would be done in the spring of 1987, summer of 87.
Okay. Now I want to spend an extra amount of time on this next chart because I find that almost no one who I talk to really understands how the new Riders Lane is going to work and where, how the intersection is going to work and so on. So you might spend some time going through in considerable detail what's going to happen.
Well, it deserves considerable detail as the centerpiece of the township as far as transportation goes. Riders Lane, the relocation of Riders Lane, to orient people to this map, Cranberry Road runs that dark line. Riders Lane comes from this far side of the drawing, traverses in front of the municipal center right here, comes into the intersection of Riders, Ruse, Cranberry Road, and then finally turns into Ruse Lane on the opposite side of that intersection and travels out to Route 18. The whole idea of relocating Riders Lane is not a new concept. It goes back as far as, in this township, it goes back to the early 70s when people recognized that the roadway as it's designed, again, just here's one of those
You mean
nice
the old roadway?
The old roadway, and I said designed and I shouldn't have said that. The old roadway as exists, since this is a roadway that came about more from people trying to get around farms than to actually go from place to place. You would notice on the overall map, if we went back, that the straight roads, the ones that went from town to town, are nice and straight. The interior roadways in a township have a lot of these bends in here, such as this one right here by the municipal center. And generally what it means is that's where someone's farm ended and someone else's farm began, and you went between the two farms, so you end up with a bend in the roadway. What we looked at and what we have accomplished, I believe, is the relocation of what is a non-designed but existing roadway into a roadway that's designed both for moving people safely as well as quickly, not fast, but quickly, just so that you're not stopping every bit along the way, through what is essentially open area, so that we aren't taking homes to solve a transportation problem. The Township of East Brunswick, with enough foresight, saw the fact that this open space in the center of town would develop at some point. And what good planners are supposed to do is plan the improvement before it happens and not try to plan something after you have a lot of development in the area. The roadway was planned to go hand in hand with the development in the town, not just in the center of town, but throughout the town. The roadway improvement begins actually at Dunham's Corner Road there's a widening, a minor widening in the area right to the north of the municipal center. And that area, most people would recognize as looks like you're going through the middle of a canyon as the two lawns go back up into the homes, which sit high above the roadway. There will be a minor widening in this area. Then for basically the rest of the roadway, as you come travel the roadway towards the municipal center, it stays pretty much the way it is until just north of Civic Center Drive here. At that point, there is again another one of our S-turns, which will be straightened out, and the roadway itself begins to widen in anticipation of the roadway through the center of town here, which is a median divided roadway. A median divided roadway means it's got pavement, a grass strip in the middle, and pavement on the other side, creating a boulevard effect. Also, medians aren't just there because they're pretty, they're there because they're safe. Generally, some general comments about the overall map and then some specific details. As I say, the light color here is the total improvement from Summerhill Road all the way back to Dunham's Corner Road. The darker lines, the black lines, are something else that the township planned. One of the things that I heard many times when I first came to East Brunswick was, you can't get there from here. If I live in this house over here and I want to visit my neighbor in the next development, I really can't get there because there's no road that links it. A case in point would be the development just to the north here, where many of the developments are very self-contained. There are no linkages to other areas, forcing all the traffic onto the main roads. What the town green area did was to create a system of off major roadways, which links each project to the other. You can get from Summerhill Road at this location a development that's currently under construction. When we're done, you'll be able to travel from this location, which is known as Summerhill Meadows, to the municipal center. And you need only cross Riders Lane here and Cranberry Road here if you wish. You can also get down to Riders Lane and take Riders Lane down. So the options are open to do several things in this area. The roadway system is planned to meet that need. It's planned to allow you to travel from development to development, from roadway system to roadway system, without actually mandating you using major roadways. The other thing I might point out just as a comment, with the exception of a short section here in the Summerhill development, none of these roadways have homes fronting on them, so that we have no driveways along these sections, just roadway intersections, increasing the safety of the roadway, increasing the ability of the roadway to service what it's trying to do, which is through traffic, and not hurting people who live on the roadway because they've got traffic running in front of their house every day.
Who's building these roads?
Everything in black is being built by developers. The township will be building the light color here. This one little piece of black here is already built, but the remainder of this roadway system is either under construction by developers or will be built by developers. In particular, this section of roadway, this section up in here already exists. This section in here already exists, as a matter of fact. And this section coming in here is just beginning. So all of the roadways, including this roadway down here, will be constructed by developers as part of an overall plan that the Township of East Brunswick laid down and said, this is what's best for East Brunswick. And the developers came in and built according to that scheme. Now some specific details as to how this roadway system
I was going to suggest we talk about Ruse Lane and what's going to happen to that with the new Riders Lane in place.
Okay, that's... First, let's take a look at the Ruse Lane here, which is Ruse Lane, the beginning of Ruse Lane out to Summerhill Road. Beginning at the intersection of Ruse Riders Lane, we are going to, first of all, finally force as by way of construction, the traffic will be relocated from Ruse Lane, which currently is the main travel from Route 1 to Route 18, onto the new Riders Lane. We're going to do it by several methods. One, this section of Riders Lane in here, in this blue color, which currently exists, will be removed. We will actually we'll pull this section of road out of the ground. There are two ponds here. We're going to merge the two ponds. This will all become part of the municipal center, and there will be no movement through Ruse Lane in this direction. In case someone, this roadway system will still exist, so you'll be able to loop around the existing building. To prevent people from trying to shortcut this route by taking that route, the next step will be to abandon the intersection of Ruse Riders Lane, create a new intersection down just south of here for U-turn movements to come back up Cranberry Road, and possibly to allow people out onto Cranberry Road utilizing this existing section that will be left in place of Riders Lane. To further make sure that we're not going to have somebody say, well, then I'll do this, come up here and come into Ruse Lane, which I don't know why anybody do that, except some people like to be traffic lights. We will then take Brunswick Avenue and redirect Brunswick Avenue and bring it directly out to Cranberry Road. Part of what, when we looked at Riders Lane, one of the things that we found was that there was a substantial amount of traffic on Brunswick Avenue, which everyone knew existed, but what we found was that 2/3 of it wants to get to Riders Lane. So we're going to facilitate the movement of 2/3 of the traffic right out to Cranberry, which will allow it to move up to Riders Lane, the intersection here, and make their turn to go northbound on Riders Lane. This section, from approximately the location of the existing intersection with Ruse Lane now to Cranberry Road, will be one way. It will be one way out to Cranberry Road. Ruse Lane itself will, in this green area, be taken out of the ground, ripped up, and abandoned. Ruse Lane will tee into Brunswick Avenue right here, which will allow a two-way movement on Ruse Lane in and out. You'll be able to move up Brunswick Avenue into Ruse Lane. You'll be able to move in Ruse Lane down Brunswick Avenue, Ruse Lane out to Cranberry Road, but you will not be able to move Cranberry Road into Brunswick Avenue and shortcut the system.
If I want to get across to Brunswick Avenue, how do I do that?
There exists, again, another development road, Henley Boulevard, which is just to the south of this intersection and goes through Society Hill East 2. That will allow people to make the transition from Cranberry Road to Brunswick Avenue, as well as Fern Road and Old Stage Road. But this is probably the more logical move. Again, this is a roadway that has no homes fronting on it. The homes are set back from it, and when we did this roadway in design, the intention was to eliminate the problem here, to create a new roadway with better sight distance, and to bring the traffic down on Brunswick Avenue at this location. So that what happens on this end of on this end of Ruse Lane, is that we have, I believe, taken care of just about every contingency as far as people using Ruse Lane. Ruse Lane now becomes the minor collector that it was supposed to be. It's a roadway for some 500 homes to the south of Ruse Lane to get out onto the major roadways. So how do they get out onto the major roadways is the next question. Because when you travel Ruse Lane down to the far end, we've also removed a section of Ruse Lane down here where it comes into Riders Lane for several reasons. One, it would be too dangerous to introduce another roadway right at this intersection where Summerhill Road and the new Riders Lane come together. And two, again, we don't want people using Ruse Lane as a shortcut to Riders Lane. Riders Lane is constructed to a standard that allows people, the vehicles on it, to proceed safely at a speed of approximately 30 to 35 miles per hour, and allows them to quickly let's say just get across the center of town to Summerhill Road. People down here will be able to get out of their development by way of a crossroad that will connect here at Winton. You'll be able to come to the vicinity of Winton and come up to Riders Lane. This area, although not currently, it does not currently have plans for signalization. Once the traffic is on the roads, which is required by DOT, Department of Transportation, we have to show traffic. We can't just say we'd like a signal light. The Department of Transportation mandates a certain series of guidelines which tells us when we can have a traffic light. The only way we can prove that we need a traffic light is to actually physically have traffic on the roadway. There's no doubt that we will get a traffic light in this area to service this location. So the people generally in this area will be able to get out to Cranberry Road, will be able to get out to Riders Lane, and then there are several ways to get out to Summerhill Road itself, so that the area is not isolated, has several outlets, and the primary outlet to Riders Lane will be Winton Road
Now,
and Cranberry.
Bill, I know there's some people who feel that that one outlet is going to be a big bottleneck, that there are too many, the traffic is going to be too heavy. Do you have some comment on that?
Well, first of all, we've already identified the area that will be using this roadway most heavily, which are the people below Ruse Lane right now. Directly below Ruse Lane is the Frost Woods. So there is no further development that will be taking place south of here that will be coming up in this direction. There is very little reason to cut through this development to get to Winton Road. Especially if you're on Summerhill Road, you can get on to Riders Lane. There's no reason to cut through. So we, in essence, have a locked-in 500 homes, which generate approximately 500 vehicles in a peak hour at its worst. So there's one vehicle for every home in the area on an average that will travel during the peak hour, whichever that peak hour is, which is an engineering term which says the hour that this roadway here is the busiest is the peak hour. And these homes down to the south here will contribute one vehicle, or approximately 500 vehicles to this roadway.
If they all wanted to go to that road at the same time?
At the same time, and if that was the only thing they wanted to do was to get onto Riders Lane at this point, and no one had any business going to Summerhill Road. So 500 vehicles here at the peak hour in the morning. There will be some transportation to the school system, but I don't expect that peak will coincide with the peak of the roadway for business commuter hours, since that peak either occurs earlier or later, depending upon whether it's AM or PM, a morning or evening rush. Generally, though, just 500 sounds like a lot of vehicles. The intersection of, Jensen Road carries 1,100 vehicles both directions in the morning. Mm-hmm. So Jensen Road is a heavily traveled roadway, but we don't have congestion on the road. It's not backed up unbearably. Jensen Road also doesn't have the access to a traffic signal at either end, which we essentially will be constructed here primarily because of the school, not because of the traffic. So that there will not be, I mean, I don't even have to equivocate on that one, there will not be a problem at the extension of Winton Road and Riders Lane. The problem will exist only in getting out and crossing Riders Lane, and we will take care of that by traffic signal.
All right, so basically what you've said about Ruse Lane is that the movement across Cranberry Road or turning from Cranberry Road onto Ruse Lane is eliminated, that Ruse Lane is made a dead end at the Summerhill Road end, and all the traffic on Ruse Lane should be local traffic from the residents of the area between Ruse and Frost Avenue generally.
Generally.
Okay, good. Now, let's, we only have a little while left, but and I want to get to some questions, but quickly say what's going to be done on Riders Lane at the Summerhill end, and then we can go to some questions.
Riders Lane will be brought into the intersection of existing Ruse Lane, which runs out to Route 18. Summerhill Road currently has the jug handle, which exists. That jug handle will be redesigned, brought a little bit further back into Riders Lane so that there'll be a greater stacking distance, and the left-hand turn from Summerhill Road will be accommodated in that manner. Generally, on the opposite side of Ruse Lane, there is a 4-lane section, so we'll be going right into a 4-lane section. It's not a case of that this, another thing I'd like to make sure people understand, 1 lane in each direction roadway with shoulders. When it gets to the intersection here, there will be a left-hand turn lane, a through lane, and a right-hand turn lane, plus a lane in the opposite direction. Will not all of a sudden come to an area where it can't be handled, since the roadway on the opposite side is also of sufficient width to carry the traffic. So that the traffic through the center of town, problems we have right now at Cranberry, Ruse, Riders Lane, by the end of summer, definitely by the middle of fall next year, will be a long-forgotten memory, and the new intersection at Riders and Cranberry will operate at an efficiency much, much higher than we currently are seeing.
Okay. So you're saying that all of this should be done, available for public use by the end of the summer?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, now, why don't we see what questions this has generated off it.
Well, I have a number of questions. The first one, I'd like to stay with the Ruse Riders Lane project. It's going to be, as you said, in this area, a one-lane highway each way. Is that correct?
It's one lane and a shoulder, so that in areas such as, take for instance Winton Road, where it comes out in this area here, the shoulder can be converted into a deceleration lane and an acceleration lane coming out, so that you don't have people slowing down in the through lane. We'll be able to move them over to a deceleration lane. At the intersections will drop the shoulders, and we will have through turn, right turn movements and left turn movements. The left turn movement will take the place of the grass median, which is in the center of the roadway, so that there will be, each of the movements will have its own lane.
I had always thought that the purpose of widening Riders Lane was to create an additional lane, so it would be a two-lane highway each way and increase the traffic flow through the town. With the shoulders and with the median, was there any consideration that was given to making a four-lane highway in this stretch? And if so, why was that not done?
Well, I'll try to answer that. Bill has taught me some traffic engineering over the years. There are two ways to improve the road. The main problem is that Ruse Lane is overcapacity, and the only thing you could do with it is widen it. And since it is fronted by so many residences, we didn't want to do that. The other problem with Ruse Lane is that it has something in excess of 50 curb cuts between New Brunswick Avenue and Summer Hill Road, and that impedes traffic and impedes traffic flow. On Ruse Lane, on the New Riders Lane, it's down to
I think it's 6.
6 in that same distance. So that in and of itself makes a tremendous improvement in traffic. There just will not be people entering the roadway at random places or backing out of their driveways and so on. And indeed, if we ever need to, the width is there to do the 4 lanes, but we believe, and the engineers all believe, that eliminating the curb cuts, the driveways, the intersections, providing the medians so the traffic's separated, and the general design of the road is going to make the traffic flow much faster and increases the capacity of the road to a much greater degree than one would anticipate.
But there is a capacity to make a four-lane highway in this area?
There's a capacity, there's existing in the pavement cross-section, which is the engineered term for curb to curb, to provide 2 lanes in each direction by eliminating the shoulder. However, I would point out one very important thing, and that's that when you get to Dunham's Corner Road, the possibility or probability of having 4 lanes above there is very, very remote. So the existence of the ability to translate to 4 lanes here helps at the intersections. It helps where you may have turning movements such as an intersection or maybe one of the roadways. But if you've got a constriction at the far end, it makes not much sense to build a 4-lane roadway to that point.
Right, let me see if I can express my point a little better. The mayor said at the beginning that East Brunswick is the heartland of Middlesex County. There's a lot of development that's going outside of East Brunswick. A lot of people use Riders Lane, as you say, as a shortcut. Keeping it as 2 lanes may be very well for handling East Brunswick traffic, but if there's going to be a major push of traffic in the outlying counties, will there be an abuse of Riders Lane such that you'd be considering 4 lanes in the next year or so? No. And before you get to that question, the follow-up on it is, I thought you said earlier in the program that on Riders Lane from Ticey's Road going out towards Route 1, you're now going to 4 lanes over there. And will you have the same bottleneck problems over there that you were worried about by going to 4 lanes over here?
Actually, no. The answer is, thankfully, it just occurs that there is a major diversion of traffic because of Milltown. Riders Lane is one of the major ways of getting into Milltown, as well as to service East Brunswick, as well as a cross-cut movement from Route 18 to Route 1. Because there is such a large turnoff at Milltown, because there's a large turnoff going towards Route 18 to get to South River, there's a substantial drop-off in traffic at that point. Also, as you get below, well, that really is the also was that as you get below, you get into a situation where 2 lanes, 1 lane in each direction handles the situation rather than the 4-lane section. 4-lane section is necessary above there as you approach Route 1. But in the morning and in the evening, there's a substantial drop-off at Tisus Lane. And again, the same thing happens again at Milltown Road.
Yeah. The numbers are fascinating, and in fact, the Dunham's Corner Road, Riders Lane intersection is the least, has the least volume of any of those intersections as you begin to move up towards Route 1 in the morning and down in the evening. There is substantial bleed off at all the places, all the intersections.
I'd like to ask some questions about Route 18 traffic.
Sure.
I understand with the tower project there'll be some road improvements to help take into account the new major employer for East Brunswick, AT&T, and that should help the traffic flow. Are there other spots on Route 18 which are traffic bogged up intersections, and are they going to be taken care of? For example, the Tices Road, Route 18 section, gets bottled up significantly in the morning. And also the intersection with Old Country, I think it's Old Country Road and Route 18. Old Bridge Turnpike and Route 18 gets blocked up. I was wondering whether there are any road improvements to Route 18 to take care of those traffic concerns.
Well, they are indeed the major bottlenecks on Route 18, the Edgeboro Road, Old Bridge Turnpike, Route 18 intersection, the Tices Lane, West Prospect, that whole area in there. Both are very serious problems. They are, unfortunately for us, the responsibility of the state, and unless there is a major developer who comes along as Tower Center to accelerate those projects, the state, as I understand it, has committed all of its money for those kinds of road improvements through 1992. And we have, unless we can do something to convince the Department of Transportation to do it right now, or unless there is substantial development nearby that would cause it to happen or contribute towards it happening, as in the case with Tower Center, it's going to be a while before it gets done.
So there are no real planned improvements for those intersections?
We have designs, conceptual
but there's
designs,
nothing in the foreseeable future?
But there's nothing scheduled that I'm aware of in the state program.
One of the problems that, and I'm a commuter into New York City, one of the problems that I face in the morning in coming down Route 18 is that about half the traffic takes it forward into New Brunswick, and and maybe half, a little less, makes the turnoff into the turnpike. And it's 1 lane that turns off Route 18 into the turnpike. Has there been any consideration to broadening the turnoff so that there could be a better traffic flow down into the turnpike, and to go along with that, to expand the number of toll booths so that it not only could accommodate that, but also accommodate the people who will be traveling on the turnpike to get in and out of Tower Center?
Generally, one of the things that the turnpike in the Tower Center hearings talked about in '84, and what they're again speaking of as part of their $2 billion improvements, and we know almost as much as everybody out in the public goes, and as a matter of fact, sometimes someone will tell me something I don't know that they learned from the turnpike. But what we've been able to gather from all the conversations is, yes, they will be doubling the size of their turn lanes into the turnpike, both access into the turnpike and access onto Route 18. As to the toll booths, once they double the lanes in, they already have problems at their toll booths. They're going to have to increase their toll booths. How big, how much of an improvement, and what those improvements look like, we hope to find out sometime in the next couple of months. But the turnpike either does not have an idea of what they're doing right now, except in a conceptual way, yes, we've got to make it bigger, or they just haven't shown us, although we've asked.
The claim is that if State Road 92 is extended from Route 1 over to Exit 8A, which is a project in southern Middlesex County, and the turnpike has the capacity to handle the traffic, that something like 30% of the traffic using Exit 9 would go to Exit 8A. because they now use exit 9 to get to Route 1 to go south to the Princeton corridor. So in addition to and I know that they also are thinking about improving the interchange, but so there's a lot happening there, but we don't, as Bill says, we haven't seen their detailed plans, so we don't know.
Now, one of the problems, as I feel, is that the town has is with finding a location for commuter parking for people to go into the city. And to some extent, until that is determined, it hinders your ability to plan traffic for the town. Are you getting close now to finding a real location for all commuter parking, and then you can work roads and traffic patterns so that the traffic in the morning to those commuter parkings could be better handled?
Well, council's in the throes of a debate now over what to do about that, and there are really only, at the moment, 2 or 3 possible locations. One is in the vicinity of Tices and 18, where the transportation center is. The other one is in the vicinity of exit 9. And when you get much beyond that, you lose the bus service, you make it more inconvenient for people to get there, and it takes them longer to get from the parking, and when they get on the bus, finally get on the bus, it takes longer to get from there to work. So it seems to me that really those are the only 2 areas that we can deal with. But the council is debating now whether they want to do the improvements at the transportation center or at the Tower Center location, and just how much to do.
Will either of the 2 locations be enough to handle all the planned commuter parking? And if not, then I guess you have to plan for roads for both.
Well, we project, based on the census figures, we project about 1,900 people who would, the demand for, the appetite for commuter parking, if you will, because not all those people necessarily park, would be about 1,900 by 1990. And currently, we are parking in the vicinity of, let's see, 1,350, 1,400 cars in the 2 facilities. So we would have to increase that by a number that would take us into the 1,900, 2,000 car range, if that is the true demand.
Besides improvements to Route 18, would there be any other improvements to side roads which would bring you closer to those commuter centers that are planned?
Well, unfortunately, the Route 18 developed, the primary development of Route 18 took place in a time before anybody realized that you needed those parallel routes, and they exist generally, but they're not very direct. And unless the township is willing to condemn a lot of very valuable land, or unless redevelopment takes place so that you can have the road network required as part of the approval, I don't see much hope for getting those parallel routes, because the land isn't there. It's built upon, the configuration of the lots is such that there just isn't the room. But if you think about it now, you can go from one end of East Brunswick to the other without going on Route 18. And if you start at the south, you come up Summer Hill Road to Cranberry Road. You can go across Merrill Avenue to Milltown Road, Harts Lane to Tices Lane, and Renee Road through the shopping center over to Egger Street, and you're through East Brunswick without going on 18. Now, that's a somewhat circuitous route, but it's there by design. Renee Road, Harts Lane, the Summer Hill Road improvements, and so on, were done based on planning that was done in the late 60s in order to create that parallel road. I don't know how much we can do beyond that because of the land use.
Now, in the proposed project for Hardenberg Lane, does any of that cut the turnpike or lead to road improvements where Hardenberg cuts the turnpike? And with the proposed or the talked about changes to the turnpike, will any of that be for naught if the turnpike decides to go one way or another way in that area where it cuts the turnpike?
As a matter of fact, we would have to be careful about where we ended the project, yes, so that we didn't put down roads just to have the turnpike come by and rip them up. Generally, we can avoid that by working closely with the turnpike and also making a good guesstimate of where their right-of-way currently is. We can avoid that. I don't see it as something where the turnpike might relocate the Hardenberg Lane Bridge slightly off-center or something along those lines, which would cause us a great deal of problems since it throws off the geometry of the curve we're doing. We could not stand for that kind of an improvement. What will happen is that that bridge will be lengthened pretty much where it is. And if that's not the case, then we will be finding that out in the next month or so. And we'll make our changes to our plans accordingly.
Okay, we've got time for one more short question, I think.
Okay. Sure.
At least a short answer.
Okay. You talked about the phrase signalizing. Can you just briefly go what is entailed to getting a traffic light in East Brunswick put up?
Quite quickly, it requires an application to the Department of Transportation in New Jersey, which has what is known as 7 warrants. The 7 warrants are 7 conditions that have to be met, either one or a grouping of several. That includes anything from high accident rate, high volumes on both roads, a high volume on one road, and an impossibility to break into the other one, which generally leads to accidents at the intersection. Death at an intersection, unfortunately, is one of the warrants, and generally down in that way. Before we can put a traffic light up, a legal traffic light, one that can be enforced, we have to meet all of those warrants, or one of the warrants, or, as I say, a group of them.
And the usual time lag between the time you make the application and the time
I
the
would
light?
say, if you were going real fast, probably 18 months.
And therein lies the problem. Not only are the warrants reactive instead of proactive, it takes a long time to get the state to approve. Well, thank you, Arthur, for coming out on this very cold night. I really appreciate your being here, and you too, Bill. And thank all of you out there for watching. I hope that you will join us on the television next month. I hope that you will give the library a call and sign up to come and be part of our studio guest panel on our next program. So until next month, this is Bill Fox about East Brunswick.